So without further ado, it's my great honor to introduce you to Witt.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Just leave it here. It's fine. What's up, guys? I have to immediately start with some water. Sorry, it's really dry here. Like he said, I am a Colorado native, so it's really, really cool to be back here. It's awesome. I love Colorado. I was just in LA where it was 90 degrees, and now in October, it's a blizzard here in Colorado, so kudos to climate change right now. I want to first give a thank you to the Turning Point chapter again. I know we just clapped for them, but thank you guys for bringing me out. The Turning Point group, Logan and everyone else worked really hard on this event. Brandon, he's the Turning Point coordinator for this region, and I called him. I figured I had to do some work over at Colorado Christian University today, and I called him. I was like, I want to do an event in Colorado. Find me a school. Let's do it. We had about 2 weeks to plan it, so this event is about like 2 weeks in the making, really, to make this happen. So amazing job of getting this, and there are some conservatives in Colorado actually filling up this room, right? How cool is that? I see a lot of MAGA hats, a lot of Trump shirts. That is a fantastic thing to see from my usual sight of homeless people and blue-haired people in Hollywood, California. So, thank you guys. I want to start, get a little intimate in here. We got a light that we can turn on? Anyway, well, there we go. Mood lights. So, as you said, I grew up in Colorado, actually. We're going to keep going with these lights, figuring out. I grew up in Colorado, actually. I went to high school here in Colorado, and I was never a conservative, really at all. I guess I was even more of a left-wing person. I thought Obama was pretty cool, so I obviously wasn't that smart. And I actually interned for the senator in my district, who was a Democrat. And after that, I went to college, I went to CU Boulder, and everything really changed for me. I saw how terrible they were to anyone who had a conservative or even different point of view. Okay, I was an English major, useless degree. Hope that might sting some of you guys. But I was in an intro to sociology class. And my TA, there's a black girl sitting next to me, and the TA, she looks at me, and she says, "You are oppressing this girl next to you just because of the color of your skin." And I was like, all right. Like, it was super weird for me, right, that this was even happening. That this lady was like a prophet, knew more about me than I knew about myself. And the black girl, she looks at me, she's like, I don't know what's going on. This is really awkward for me, too. And so after that, I was like, I don't really feel like I'm oppressing her. She doesn't feel like I'm oppressing her either. But this TA at this $50,000 a year university gets to come and tell me that I'm oppressing someone. This is how you create a victim culture in this country. And so after that, I started becoming very conservative. I started getting involved in lots of student groups around Colorado. I started working directly with Turning Point USA. Like he said, I founded this DU chapter. Started founding a lot of chapters across the state. I started speaking out here. I worked with the local Republican Party. And then eventually I decided to make a video on my campus where I went around and asked women what they thought about the wage gap. It was my first video. If you guys have seen it, you're a real one. It's a terrible video, looking back now. But I taught myself how to edit the videos, taught myself how to shoot it. This guy right here, JT, raise your hand. He's single, by the way. He is the one who shot the video, and I sent it to PragerU because I love their videos. They really influenced everything that was my conservative thought. And I sent it to them, they loved it, and long story short, after 2 years of college, I dropped out, moved to LA, and started working for PragerU. And so that's how my story basically started, which is really cool. So again, it's really cool to be back in Colorado. I've never done an event by myself here in this state, so to have a full room like this, everyone packed, it means the absolute world to me. So thank you all of you for being here. But I want to start out, my event today is about the left and their radicalization, just how terrible they are, the things that they're doing to this country. As someone who grew up in Colorado and seeing how it used to be to how it is now, I went downtown a little while ago for the 420 festival. I don't know if anyone else went to that. But just seeing like the amount of homeless people that are out there, the amount of trash that is out there, how pricey everything is getting in Colorado, those things can only happen by leftist policies. Right now, with my cameraman, producer Alex right here, we are working on a documentary right now about Texas versus California, right? The premise of the documentary is basically California sucks and Texas is great. And if any of you guys have been to California, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's the premise right now. I'm really excited about it because it shows exactly how left-wing policies so quickly, radical left-wing policies, can destroy somewhere that is a beautiful place, that was a conservative place, and in the blink of an eye, it can all be gone because of these left-wing policies that they put in. So, basically, when I got out of college and I started working for PragerU, I knew that I had to do something because I saw what was going on here in Colorado. I saw what was going on in California, and I knew that it was up to me and a lot of other people to get together and try and make some changes. The main thing that I realized about the left is that, I'm sure you guys being conservatives on your college campus or at your work, is that you talk to these people and we think that leftists are wrong and leftists think that conservatives are evil. And that's a huge difference because we're willing to talk to anyone, debate anyone, have an open discussion with anyone. But leftists are not like that. Leftists want to shut you down for any sort of difference of opinion that you might have. And that's a sad thing because America was built on discourse. It was built on people being able to share their ideas openly. And so right now you have leftist people who do not want to do that on your college campuses. I'm sure you guys have a million examples of exactly what that's like. But these students have been completely brainwashed on your campus, okay? I don't think that these students are evil. They've just been completely brainwashed. Did anyone watch the Democratic debates that have just happened? Yeah, a few people? I'd like to take a moment of silence for the brain cells that we have lost watching these debates. But really, these are, right now, those people in the Democratic debates when they say, we want to give illegal immigrants free health care, and all of them raise their hand, right? That is despicable. That they want to put illegal immigrants over hardworking Americans. And these are the role models that young people are looking up to right now, okay? Ocasio-Cortez is someone that a leftist on your campus is looking up to as a role model, someone who hates America. That's who they look up to. They look up to people who don't know history and who hate this country. And that's a travesty. The number one thing, people always ask me all the time, like, what is something else that conservatives can do? We can speak on the campuses and we can do all this, but there has to be more that conservatives can do. And the lack of role models is, to me, one of the biggest issues facing conservatives right now. Conservatives do not have a lot of really good role models for them, right? We have someone like Candace Owens, who I work with all the time, works for PragerU and has her show, if you guys haven't seen that. But Candace Owens is a great person for being a role model for young black Americans to wake up and be conservative, right? And we haven't had that. She's only been around for maybe a year now doing this, and I feel like I'm a role model for a lot of people. But there really aren't a ton of role models for young people to look up to and say, this person's cool, I want to follow this person, I want to have the same beliefs as this person, and that's a big issue. Because if we don't have those role models, then we're never going to be able to shift the culture. And so I'll get into that a little bit more at the end. But again, all these leftists, I think it's funny that the CNN, I think it was CNN, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but they wanted to do the 4-hour-long symposium on climate change, I believe it was, right? Where they all basically get up there and cry about how bad climate change is while they all drove there in their Escalades and SUVs, pumping tons of gas out. But I want to talk about climate change because it's something that I'm sure you guys talk to people about all the time. So I want to give you my thoughts about it. Climate change, it doesn't even matter what you think about it, okay? If you believe climate change is totally true and the worst thing ever, or you don't believe in climate change, there's one thing that we should all be able to agree on, and that is that the government sucks and that the government can't fix climate change, okay? That is the number one thing. If you guys know Durango, Colorado, which is here, a few years ago in Durango, Colorado, in the Animas River that is up there, the Environmental Protection Agency, mind you, dumped tons and tons of waste into the Animas River. It was an environmental disaster. These are the people in the government who are supposed to be protecting the environment, okay? Think about what's happening in Germany right now with their energy crisis, where they are basically getting rid of fossil fuels and coal, and they're replacing it with solar energy and wind energy. But then they realize that in the wintertime, the sun doesn't shine, and the wind doesn't really blow that much, so their energy costs have gone through the roof, because the government has tried to put this energy on people when they don't have the technology to support it. Another example, you have Solyndra. Any of you people who were around during the Obama administration will know that Solyndra was a solar company that the government spent $500 million on that went completely bankrupt. This is the government at work trying to protect the climate. But the best solution for climate change is the free market. Every single time. Capitalism is the best solution for climate change. There is an organization, me and Alex, we were at Summit Ministries, if any of you guys are familiar with Summit Ministries. But the guy who runs Summit Ministries, a guy named Jeff Myers, he was talking to us about a wonderful company called the Paradigm Project. Has anyone ever heard of it? No? It's probably the most wonderful thing that I've ever heard of. If you didn't know, 4 million people every year in third world countries die from smoke from stoves alone, right? This is like you cooking on your stove. 4 million people die, children, in these third world countries. And so the Paradigm Project is this group that basically got together, made a product. It's a stove that reduces, that doesn't make so much smoke. It's also cheaper for them to make, and it makes a lot of people money. So basically this company got it so that they hired people in these third world countries to make these stoves. It cut down emissions so that people weren't getting sick. It also cut smoke down so that people, it wasn't affecting the climate as much. And then also wealthy investors were investing in the company to get carbon credits. So at the same time that it was helping people and helping the environment, it also made people money. This is what the free market can do. The free market has the solutions to help climate change. Okay, there's another example of a cutlery company that's like plates and knives and stuff that is making cutlery out of totally recyclable goods, out of all sorts of things that you would usually throw in the trash. And if you guys don't know about what's happening with stuff that we recycle right now, China now is saying that they're not going to burn our products anymore. So all the stuff that you guys put in the recycling bin that you guys think is actually helping the environment, they're dumping it into the ocean. So it's actually worse for the environment right now to recycle instead of putting it into a landfill. Regardless, that's what's going on with climate change. It's a horrible travesty that the government, Ocasio-Cortez, wants to put in a Green New Deal that would basically be the end of America if it were to be put into place. But that's why we're here fighting against it. One of the other things that I think was that at the Dem debates and everything else that the left talks about, their radical ideology, is abortion, right? If you guys didn't know, 60 million children have been killed since Roe v. Wade was enacted. And to me, that is a horrible travesty. That is states, that is entire countries, populations that have been killed by abortion since Roe v. Wade. But the left has hijacked the argument. So when we talk about the left getting more radical, which is what this event is about, you see how they were, decades ago, and how it was supposed to be safe, legal, rare. And now the left is literally pro-abortion. They tell people that they should get an abortion instead of looking for another option. To me, that's really sad. But the left has hijacked the argument to make it, instead of it being something that anyone can talk about, they've turned it into a woman's rights issue. It should be a human life issue. That's what the issue should be about. Abortion is a human life issue. But they've turned it into a women's rights issue, and they say that if you're a man, you don't have a uterus, you can't talk about abortion. Which to me is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because, if you know anything about biology, you know where that baby comes from a man and a woman, right? And so the left has tried to shame men into not being able to talk about it. They tried to shame you for not talking about it. So men are the ones who have to stand up and talk about abortion because they're being shamed. And it's up to them, because if they don't stand up and talk about it, then the argument is going to continue to get hijacked. So that's another example of how the left has pretty much gone even more left. Let's see. Another thing that men have to do right now, which is probably the most important thing for me, really, is that men need to be men. Men are not acting like men at all. Have you guys ever seen male rompers? That is a disgusting, horrible thing. And that should never happen, okay? Men should not wear rompers. In all seriousness, well, again, does anyone have a TikTok? Yeah? Raise your hand. The few embarrassed people, like, yeah, I have one. Yeah. Follow me if you have one. But if you've been on TikTok, this is just an example. For the people who don't know what that is, TikTok is this new social media app that is basically full of high school and middle school kids who make these very vain videos of themselves. And you see men who are like 16, or not men, boys who are 16, 17 years old, dancing to songs, lip syncing, and they have earrings on, and they do their hair so pretty. I mean, I do mine too, but it's different. It's different. It's different. But it's like, this is the generation of men that we're raising. We're raising men who do not feel like men. If we don't have men to stand up for the values that we believe in America, then this country is really lost. We have feminine men who are going to be the future of this country. And that's a big deal, because right now in America, you have men, young men, I think up to the age of 26, are killing themselves at a rate that is 5 times more than young women. It's the highest suicide rates of young men ever recorded. And that's a terrible thing. Young men are no longer getting jobs. They're not getting married. They're staying at home. They're watching porn. They're playing tons and tons of video games. And listen, those things are not so bad when you're doing it in moderation, you're a younger guy. But when you're graduated from college and you're still living at your parents' place, and you're not going out and looking for a date, you are playing video games all day, doing any of these sorts of things, not getting a job, not wanting to get married, that makes you sad. Your life is not fulfilled. They also don't have any religion in them. These young men, I mean, I went to CU Boulder, as you guys know, if you guys have been there, or I mean, even here probably at DU, I mean, they're godless places. The university is a godless place, as you guys probably know. And I'll talk about this a little bit in the ending, but that's a real big deal. That's a real big deal when people don't have any sort of value or moral system to follow, and then they turn to these other things. And I know this is how young men feel. I know that young men feel that they have no purpose. They feel like there's not a whole lot of stuff that they can do. They get shamed by the left. They're told that they're terrible people, and I know this is the case because I was one of these young guys, right? But when I was talking about my experience at CU Boulder as a young man, I felt like I had no purpose. I partied all the time. I skipped my classes. I wasn't doing very well in the things that I was doing because I didn't really feel like I had a real direction. The left and the people who I thought I was supposed to follow were not pushing me into a direction that I thought was anything for me, And this is for young women feel this way too, but especially for my men out there, you know how it feels. And so the number one thing that changed for me, well, two things. The two things that changed for me. The first one was reconnecting with my family. My family is here, right here. We got some people. Thank you, guys. My grandparents, my sister, my brother, my mom, stepdad up front, or up in the back. My mom's very nervous, so she's all the way in the back. But I wasn't very close with them, and I felt, a lot of times that, family values aren't that important. I'm doing my own thing. I'm up in college. It doesn't matter. And, you really realize how important family is, how important family values are. The lack of family values right now in America. I mean, I live in LA. The divorce rate is, I think, close to 70% in LA. People are growing up without fathers, without families. And that's a huge deal. So for me, reconnecting with my family and realizing that these are the most important people in my life and really putting them first instead of myself being selfish was a huge deal for me. And if you're feeling lost at all, try reconnecting with your family too. It'll really change your life. The second thing was putting happiness over enjoyment. And that's another big deal. The thing that, I was doing things that were very enjoyable. I would sit at home, I'd watch a lot of TV, I'd go out and party, and those things brought me a lot of temporary enjoyment. I was hanging out with people who weren't great people, and those things brought me a lot of enjoyment. But they didn't bring me any real happiness. I didn't feel happy, the next morning, obviously. And so putting the things that brought you happiness above enjoyment is another way to totally change your life. Right now, people in America, their priorities are all wrong. We're putting the things that bring us enjoyment above the things that bring us happiness. And to me, in my life, that was one of the number one things that changed my life. I mean, that's actually why I worked for PragerU, because this happiness over enjoyment is a Dennis Prager quote. And that was something that totally woke me up to saying, wow, like this guy has the answers. That's why I wanted to work for PragerU for a really long time. Okay, something else that I just want to get off. Excuse me. What do we have to eat today, Alex? Some pizza and burgers, yeah. Always I have a burping problem. Anyway, I know a lot of you guys, if you follow me on social media, you follow PragerU, you might have seen what we've been doing this last week in San Jose, California with our lawsuit. We are suing YouTube. Woo! Yes. Big deal. Big deal. Okay? So all these ideas that you're hearing from me, that you hear from other conservative speakers, there's people who have a difference of opinion. You're never going to hear if social media continues to censor conservative voices. So I'll give you guys a rundown of what we've been doing. Last week on Thursday, Alex and I and the other marketing staff at PragerU, we went out to Silicon Valley and UC Berkeley with a big truck, that LED truck that was playing all of the videos that YouTube has restricted from us, and we played it in front of their headquarters. And it was awesome. None of them came out and talked to us, but we could see them like in the windows, like, like, I see you, come on out. But then we went there, and then we went to UC Berkeley as well, which was horrible, as you guys can imagine. We had some guy, beta male, who came. He had long black hair, longer than a girl's, and he came and he spat at us, and then he said, F off, fascist, eat, S-word, all these horrible things. But he wouldn't come and talk to us, because that's how the left operates. They won't discuss their opinions with you. They just want to be violent and say horrible things to you. And so we did that, but then the next day we had our state court case in San Jose, California, Superior Court of California, and our lawyer gave his arguments, the Google guy gave his arguments as well, and that's about where we're at right now. So we were at the Ninth Circuit about a month ago in Seattle. If you guys know anything about the Ninth Circuit, you know it's completely left, completely ran by leftists, so we're probably going to lose. We're probably going to lose both of our cases, but that's okay. We hope that the Supreme Court will pick up our case. There are a lot of people who are conservatives who are actually against our case. I'll give you a quick rundown of our lawsuit right now because a lot of people just don't understand it. A lot of libertarian people say, you know, they're a private company, they can do whatever they want. I hear what you're saying, but these big tech companies are no longer private companies. They are public forums, okay? These are huge monopolies that basically run everything we do, right? I mean, every congressperson is in the back pocket of Google. Pretty much a Republican, Democrat, they are all paid off by Google. And so these big tech companies have, what's the word I'm looking for? Testified in front of Congress and said that they are a public forum. They've said that they're a public forum open to all. But then they also want to be a publishing tool where they censor people based off of their political opinions. So, example, you right here in the Reagan-Bush shirt, like let's say I write a book about you and I say all these horrible lies about you. Your hat sucks, I hate your shirt, and well, those aren't lies. Just kidding. But I say all these horrible things about you, and then you wouldn't sue me. You would then sue the book publisher for these lies, for libel, for defamation, right? But if we were on the phone and I said those things, you wouldn't then sue AT&T. You would sue me for libel and defamation, okay? Do you guys follow what I'm saying at all? In the sense that one is a publishing tool that has editorial control over what goes on their post, and then one is a means of communication. So that's the big deal right now, that these big tech companies claim that they are open to all and anyone can be on them, but then they censor people based off their political or other types of views. And so that doesn't make any sense. They want their cake at the same time and eat it too. And so that's why we're taking them to court. Over 200 PragerU videos have been restricted, and it's a really big deal. If you guys, last argument, I'll end on this for that. Just that a lot of people, again, say, you know, they're a private company, they can do whatever they want. If you want an alternative, make an alternative to Google. Okay, make an alternative to YouTube. So you guys know Microsoft, you know, this company has hundreds of billions of dollars. It is at the cutting edge of technology. And they created Bing. Many of you guys use Bing? All right, the one weirdo in here who uses Bing, okay? Nobody uses Bing. Everybody uses Google. So if a company that has hundreds of billions of dollars creates a social media giant or a search engine giant that can't even compete with Google and nobody uses it, how do you think that some small guy is going to ever be able to create an alternative to this company? They've expanded beyond the reach of being competition in the free market. That's why we're taking it to them. Yeah, it's a really big deal. We hope to go to the Supreme Court and we'll be doing a ton of press and stuff for that. So I hope you guys stick around for that as well. So let's see where we're at. On time. Good. Okay. So the number one thing with the left is that the left talks about that they love America and they have all these great ideas how it's going to make it better. But in reality, the left hates America. Okay? And this is a little while ago. I use this example a lot, but a little while ago, you guys watched the State of the Union, right? And you had Trump, who was there, and he's chanting, USA, USA. And then you had Ocasio-Cortez and all the other, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they're in their white dresses, and they start chanting USA, USA at the same time, right? It's like, how can you say that you are chanting for USA as if you love this country when you want to radically transform it? You can't say that you love something if you want to radically transform it. If I was dating a girl and I said, oh, I love you, but I want to radically transform you, that wouldn't really make any sense. That doesn't make any sense, right? So these leftists who want to put in something like a Green New Deal, which is completely un-American, cannot also claim that they love everything that this country is about when they want to radically transform it. And so that's what you have to understand, is that the left will claim that they have these great ideas that are going to make America better, but in reality they are un-American and they hate this country. I've given kind of a diagnosis of the left tonight, and I want to give kind of an antidote as well. So I talk about this at every speech that I do, because I don't like to just complain. I like to give a few examples as well. And I like to talk about bigger idea things too. Not necessarily such niche things all the time, because I feel like when you talk about bigger idea things, you're giving people the means of how to think instead of just what to think. If we only focus on small things, people are going to go out and not know what to do about the next situation that comes their way. So anyway, I talk about the 3 ways that we can beat the left, okay? 3 ways that we can beat the left. The first one is to convince liberals that they're our friends, okay? A lot of you guys, I don't blame anyone here for using the words liberal and leftist interchangeably, okay? I did it before, but in reality, liberals and leftists are a lot different. Liberals are a blessing. Okay? Liberals might believe in a little bit bigger government, or, you know, they're more kind of that classic liberal person that you've heard of or talked to, but they're not leftists. But right now, excuse me, an example. I was in Los Angeles. You might have heard me say this before. I was in Los Angeles in an Uber. I was in a suit. You know, I look nice. And the Uber driver, she's this Mexican woman, and she says, "Oh, like, you look really nice. Like, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a political personality. I'm a political personality." And she's like, "Oh my God, that's so great that we have young people out there getting Trump out of office. Thank you." I'm just like, "Yeah, dude, for sure." But, you know, I don't usually talk my politics with Uber drivers because you say one thing about Trump and they're one turn off Mulholland and that's about it. But I got into it with this woman because I was going to a speech and it's kind of, you know, practice a little bit before I do it. And she was against affirmative action. She was against the welfare state. She believed in fathers in the homes. And she was a school teacher when she wasn't doing her Uber driving. And she was against them putting the transgender bathrooms inside of her school, right? It was going to cost money. She was more libertarian that way. But it was like all these things that this woman believed in were conservative liberal values, every single thing. But for some reason, this woman thought that Trump was the devil and the worst thing in the world, thought Republicans were so evil. This is where I go back to the beginning of my speech, where I talk about how we think that leftists are wrong and leftists think that we are evil. And liberals think that conservatives and Republicans are evil as well because they've been convinced by the left that we are. And so this is what we have to do to wake people up. There's a huge voting bloc, and this is a huge amount of people that we want to get over to just, even if they don't agree with us on everything, at least be our friends, that this is this huge liberal base of people who are actually conservative but don't know it. Okay, you are born a conservative, you are taught to be a leftist. The second thing that we can do is drink water. And that is to make God great again, okay? This is a huge deal for me, someone who, like I said, grew up in Colorado and was an atheist my entire life, okay? My brother, he was a big atheist guy, and he always was convincing me about it and how stupid God was and how stupid religion was and all these different things. And I was very, I agreed with him on pretty much everything, and I didn't really think about it too much. And once I started becoming more conservative, I had a big wake-up call to it, actually. And a lot of it changed. I'm no expert on religion, but, Dennis Prager, as you guys know, he's Jewish. I'm not Jewish. I like my meat and cheese together too much. But he's the one who really convinced me about it. And just, if everyone in the world followed the 10 Commandments, the world would be a better place. The world would be a better place. And that's the truth. That's really the truth, okay? Like I was talking about before, how young people don't know history, how you just watch, or before, when you watch that video and that girl didn't know that Hitler killed 6 million Jews, you watch that? Obviously, these young people aren't being taught history, okay? Then one of the number one things that convinced me about religion as well, about Christianity, was when you look at I was about to say tweets from the Founding Fathers. Yeah. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson getting canceled for a 1792 tweet. No, if you look at the old quotes from the Founding Fathers about how they knew that God is where we get our morality from, okay? You don't get your morals from the government. You don't get your rights from the government. You get your morals and you get your rights from God. And the Founding Fathers knew this, and this is why they established this country the way that it is, okay? And so that's something in history that a lot of people don't know. And I mean, there are tons and tons of quotes that you can look out there and see that the Founding Fathers were saying this. We have a great PragerU video on it as well. I think it's called, "Was America Intended to be Secular?" Something along those lines. If you guys want more information on that, you can go check it out. And again, even if you're not a religious person, the Bible is something that you should read, or at least read to your children, because it has a ton of great values in it. The third thing, the final thing, which is the most important one, which basically encompasses everything that we've talked about tonight, and you guys have heard, is to never sacrifice your values for anything or anyone, okay? This is the one that No matter what I'm doing, I pretty much say this every single day to someone. Because every day I have someone who's texting me or messaging me or something and asking for advice, and this is the number one thing I can give them, okay? I can't give everyone the solution to how your life is supposed to be successful or how everything that you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it, right? But I can tell you this about sacrificing your values, okay? Because people always ask me about how I got to where I'm at and everything. Like I said, about 2.5, 3 years ago, I was just a college student, just like a ton of you guys, at a school here in Colorado, and I just had these conservative values, and I decided to make a change, to do something, right? I decided to stick up for the things that I believed in. And now I'm here with a full group of you guys at this speech, hearing me talk. I mean, it's the most amazing thing that I'm blessed to be able to be here and have this happen, all right? And this is because I didn't sacrifice my values for anything. Have any of you guys been to California recently? Or anyone from California? I'm sorry. It's horrible. It's horrible. I live in Hollywood. I live in a pretty nice area, decently. Alex would disagree. It's a pretty nice area in Hollywood Hills a little bit. But every single day when I go outside, there's a homeless dude digging through my trash. I'm like, I finished my Big Mac. You can't eat it. But every day there's someone there. There's homeless people everywhere, needles on the ground, poop everywhere. And California used to be a conservative state, okay? They had Ronald Reagan not too long ago, right? And now look at California. It is the worst state, is the worst place to live in the nation, okay? They are 48th out of 50th in income inequality, and they spend $1.03 billion a year on welfare for people. And they have the highest homelessness population. In a 13-mile radius in Skid Row, they have 8,000 homeless people. Can you believe that? That is insane. We just went down there, had to take 2 showers afterwards. It is a horrible place being in California. But I'm not saying this just to, poop on California, not literally. I mean, some people do. Anyway, but I'm saying it to showcase that this is what can happen in a place where conservatives had a foothold and were there, and then leftists come and completely take it over. That's happening in Colorado. Here in Colorado, they want to get rid of the Electoral College. Completely un-American people who are trying to run this state into the ground. Excuse me. And California is the way that it is because of leftist policies, but it's because of conservatives not standing up for the things that they believe in, not standing up to the left and saying, we're sick of this, we don't want this anymore, we don't want higher taxes, we don't want another gas tax, we don't want rent control, we don't want all these different things. But they didn't stand up and do anything against it, and now we're here. Now we're here in California, now you have Colorado turning that same way. You even have parts of Texas, which is what our documentary is on. I mean, we went to Austin, Texas, and even there it's getting bad. I mean, the whole state's turning purple there. And this is because conservatives are not standing up and trying to do anything against it. So if you guys want Colorado to look like California and walk outside and have all these horrible things happening, have your rent be even higher than it is already, your taxes, not being able to keep any of your own money, homelessness everywhere, then keep voting for leftist politicians. Keep putting forward leftist policies. You'll get that. And keep being silent at your work, at your university, and those things will happen. You can have them easy. But if you stand up for what you believe in, those things will not happen. It just takes all you guys who are here to actually say something. When someone, when I was in college, people, a lot of conservative people in the classes. I was in a political science class at CU Denver, and my teacher hated me so much. I was the worst. Because every time we'd get into political discussions, I'd just be like, raise my hand and be like, what do you want, Will? I'd be like, well, that's wrong, okay? This is why, I just watched a Ben Shapiro video, and this is the truth, Yeah. But, I would stand up in class and say something about it. I felt like I was the only conservative in my class standing up, but then I'd finish class and I'd have some kid come up to me and he'd be like, hey man, I really like what you said today. Like, you want to get pizza later? I was like, no. You're a baby. You should have said something too, It's like we have to stand up and do something about the things that we believe in, or it's all going to continue to get worse. That is the main thing that I want you guys to take away from this. The main thing. That people are always going to pressure you to change your views or be silent or not speak up. You can't be that person, because if you're that person, everything will continue to get worse. The most important thing that we can do is telling the truth, okay? The most important thing that we can do is to tell the truth in everything that we do. The 9th commandment states, bear no false witness. And to me, this means pretty much telling the truth, to always tell the truth, okay? There are, I personally believe that there were Nazis, or I'll start with this, that pretty much all of the worst atrocities that have taken place in the last 100, 150 years were based on lies, Okay? Nazism was based on the lie that Jews were inferior to the Aryan race. You had communism, which literally they titled their newspaper in Russia Pravda, which means truth. You can see how truthful that is. Slavery was built on the lie that black people were inferior to white people. And so you had all these things that were built on lies, but I can guarantee you there were probably some Nazis who, in their own personal lives, were good people to their wives, good people to their children, and didn't really realize the things that they were doing. It's because a mass group of people were convinced that the horrible, evil things that they were doing were actually good. They were convinced that the horrible, evil things that they were doing were actually good. And this is what we see happening with the left right now in America, where they are being convinced that these ideas that they hold, these things that they talk about, are actually good for this country. But they are horrible, and they're going to lead us down the wrong path. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you. There's just one more thing. Sorry, I know I keep saying this, but again, I'm from Colorado, everyone. I'm probably going to go home and cry after this. This is like the nicest thing ever to have all you guys here and come out and support this event. It means the absolute world to me. So just know how much I appreciate you guys and what you guys are doing, being here and standing up for what you believe in. So thank you to you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. To help keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.